Hello everybody, welcome to the Great Cosmic Shift. This is Cyrus Kirkpatrick. Today we'll be talking about two paintings that reflect creation itself. We are talking about a time scale that is absolutely surrealistically huge. And this is what happens when you explore the world of mental syncing and trying to get answers from this point, and corresponding things and exploring things with the spirit teams and other universes and all of that. Well, that's what you get here when you're dealing with me and this channel. This is also about the Great Cosmic Shift and so much knowledge, I think, kind of pouring into the world right now, with many people having pretty amazing experiences actually all over the world right now with telepathic experiences. A lot of things coming to light. And on this video, it's about a couple of unlikely sources of two paintings that kind of tell parts of a story that is so vast and so unbelievable that it's almost like where do we even begin? Because these are mysteries that span a time span that is something that so few, except I would say the most ancient cultures, could even understand. So let's go ahead and figure it out on this channel. So I'm going to go ahead and roll the intro. And we're back. Okay guys, before we get started, as usual, let me just point out that kind of a common message you may hear. If you subscribe to this channel right now, that really helps, because Afterlife Topics and Metaphysics, my main channel from before, is offline because all my accounts were hacked. So I have to remake everything essentially. But I'm now tackling a kind of a branching subject within the greater subject of our higher realities, the afterlife, and getting through into, let's say, learning about cosmic secrets and things that pretty much are not spoken about in many other places unless you dig deep into the ancient research. And in my case, I learned so much simply through the process of mental syncing, research, and real actual communications, manifestation experiences with the Angelic Order, which is my primary go-to point. I've been doing work with the Angelic Order for about one and a half years as an advisor, and this is a higher density group, a 6th density as it's known, group of which is known as an angelic assembly, a new one actually, that is presided over by very, very ancient cosmic beings, and they are really helping out the planet right now because of a lot of bad stuff going on out in the cosmos. That's all being basically worked through as we speak out in the realms beyond, invisible to most of us, as well it should be, so that we can live our lives here without worrying about what's happening out there. So also, if you are from Afterlife Topics, from my old community, and you are a patron on my Patreon page, I apologize if I never got back to you. If you were looking to do some kind of a one-on-one session with me from the Patreon, I can't access my Patreon, so I will have never been able to read those messages. So please contact me at cosmicshiftawakening@gmail.com, and I'll be able to get back to you, as well as people who want to do work with me one-on-one. Okay, so this video is going to be unusual because we're going in unusual paths, as we often do, but when you start getting at the truth behind things get strange. That's one thing I've learned, is that things get strange, and then miracles begin manifesting. Last night I was walking around the park and there was a big orb of light flying around the grass. I mentally synced, and it was a fairy being that I know named Manalana, and kind of a guide who brings little miracles around, and she was demonstrating how the collective consciousness is integrating as we speak and allowing more and more amazing magical types of things to happen in our world, which corresponds to bad guys being taken out, corresponds to the collective consciousness being stabilized, and many things like that, which is of extreme importance to our world, because there's so many collectives that they call the anti-magic collectives of souls that want to crush and destroy people's hopes and dreams, and want to hurt a sense of magic and wonder in life and block it from ever manifesting on our planet. And that's a big part of what this whole business of the shift is all about on our planet. Okay, so this going to take an interesting turn, because I'm going to basically read off a article I just posted over on the Afterlife Topics and Metaphysics Facebook group. Here we are. And it concerns: as I explore deeply through mental thinking about divinity, it seems the major forces of creation itself occurred in an actual time frame, or the point that we would say God said, "Let there be light." Those major forces were, among others, and these are what we call the great spirits, the great souls that have left a kind of blueprint within reality itself. This included Akiane, Samael, and Metatron, and these are what we would call elder archangels of existence. When I was a kid, I was very drawn, this is where it gets funny, to a video game called Silent Hill 3, and also the first Silent Hill for PlayStation. This game explored a creation, I'm going to put air quotes, myth, and a battle against a nightmare, but all overseen by the Archangel Metatron, who guides the main character and the player on a kind of path through and out of darkness. And I remember playing this game as a kid and just chronicling all the symbology, all the meaning, all the mythologies, and just writing it down, going on the internet, talking to other people about it. But the reoccurring theme was Metatron, the mysterious figure, the mysterious being, and the symbol that guides the characters through this nightmare until they reach the light at the end. So I remember late in the game, you're in something like it's hard to even understand what's going on in the game sometimes, because it's such an acid trip. But late in the game, there's a painting and a melody that goes with it. And through my experiences of mental syncing and working with the Archangel Radiance and others from the Angelic Order, I'm told that the Japanese souls are sometimes the most ancient in our cosmos, and they often seed elements of grand creation, the grand ultimate story, into their fictions. But this story is so unbelievable and difficult to try to put those pieces together. So this is the actual scene from that game. Now let me just turn my desktop audio on. And so you can so again, this is a video game. How does a video game relate? Because sometimes I will get a cynical person. It's like, what does this have to do with anything? He's playing, some old lady, get off my lawn. No, that's not what we're talking about here. We in art, in its different forms, we're going to find all types of clues leading to very, very crazy places as we explore deeper into how pop culture, let's say, manifests, I would say, some of the great secrets, because artists sometimes are absolutely connected to things which they don't often even realize. But through my work, I'm able to get information from ancients about some of the things that are going on out there. And one was a scene in the game where there's this mysterious painting that you can observe on a wall with other paintings, and it relates. So this is actually it's from a channel down here that's posting like soundtrack of this game, Silent Hill 3, and it's called The Music of the Sun soundtrack, which talks about creation. And this is actually, let's take a quick look here. So this is the painting that we're looking at. Now I'll blow this painting up later. So what are we looking at? Well, what I was told is that, spliced into this game, seeded into this game, were a series of paintings that actually reflect the dawn of creation, which exists within a time scale. Now, what's so strange is the concept that there even is a time scale. Because if you talk to certain people in the esoteric field, they'll be, well, everything is just an infinite repeating universe. If you go into the real Tom Campbell territories, which I don't obviously agree with one bit, instead we're looking at the God said let there be light moments. The time scale is actually one calculated within years, and my Arcturian connections have told me that they were able to calculate all of this. The time scale of creation is 1 to the power, I should say 1 with 100 zeros. So 1 with 100 zeros, and that's in years. Multiply that in on itself in years. So that's, I believe that's a Google. That's, like google.com, Google. 1 with 100 zeros multiplied in on itself, repeated multiple times. And that's a span of moments that can be traced back to the dawning era of existence, when everything, to quote my angelic sources, everything that is wonderful, that can exist, that should exist, that could ever exist, has to exist, and therefore it comes into existence in this way. And so it is the dawning of creation, which is, I guess to use that phrase, all that is holy. So it's everything that is holy, everything that is divine, everything that's miraculous, everything that's wonderful, and everything that could be represented as love has to exist and does exist and exists back then, and is always accessible, because time becomes not relevant. Even if we can look at that whole span of time, it's not relevant, because you can go back in time to that exact point, and this is where an angel comes from. An angel comes from that point. You see what I mean? So when somebody becomes an angel, I'm told, they travel to that beginning point of creation by time travel. And from that point they return as an angel after experiencing God. And the archangels, the highest level of archangel, are beings that represented this, let's say, represented the one infinite creator, and came forth from that moment, and it was in a sense their creativity went out across everything. And what we're looking at here is a painting, and it's hard to know what it means, but what I am told is that this is a painting and it relates to the Archangel Metatron, and it represents part of a point in existence whereupon the very human form came into being. Not just the human form, but many other forms. And this is the creation of the very spirit reality we talk about, the very mental reality that exists as we know it. And this painting, I am told, is not just a painting that's from some video game. This painting, others like it, that were in this game, were telling a story about something that happened an unfathomably long time ago, and is deeply embedded into the Japanese soul collective, the Japanese myths, including as it relates to the goddess Amaterasu, which in the game Silent Hill 3, I am told your protagonist's main character, a woman named Heather, or a teenage girl named Heather, is Amaterasu. And so what we're looking at is part of the actual creation elements of existence that came to be at that stage. But this comes at a time span not long after the great cosmic moment, which is related to in a different painting, which we'll get to that painting next. So again, so you have this soundtrack, and you have this painting, which I could never get the painting out of my mind. Like, I could never stop thinking about, like, what is this painting and what are some of the other ones like it? And there's that whole story. It's like there's this crazy power in this game. It's like there's something going on here that's telling a story that's relating to something. As kind of nightmarish as that game is, you're going through this nightmare, and Metatron, the Archangels, guiding you out of the nightmare back into the light. And that's the main thing, and you're playing as the sun goddess Amaterasu. So that's the nature of this painting, and this painting, I'm told, arises from that point. So it actually arises from that span of time of creation involving the actual human form, that even in an era beyond imagination, the human form is actually so beautiful, you'll see it's represented as perfect symmetry. So it's the human form of perfect symmetry and perfect beauty, which is strange because some people do not like the human form, Well, when the human form is represented, it becomes part of the soul essence. I am told that the eyeball, the eye, the beauty of the eye arose at that moment of creation. That is how ancient the human form and the eye and the symmetry of the body, which is cut straight down the middle, so you can, there's two eyes, there's two ears. It's this perfect symmetrical creation, which is how the very human form of existence came into being. Okay. So there's that painting. Let's call it the nameless painting. Who knows? It manifested itself in a video game. But I'm told that this is one of the primary paintings. And who is she? I don't know. Because it's kind of like no one knows. It's just known about among the ancients that this is one of the main paintings that relates to everything, right? So, what next? As I say in my article on Afterlife Topics, along with this painting and melody, there is a painting by Akiane. Okay, so first of all, who is Akiane? Akiane Kramarik. So Akiane Kramarik is a painter in Australia, and I knew right away years ago there is something about this girl that is beyond imagination, and I was right. I came to know that Akiane's higher self, as it's known, is actually the ruler among archangels. She explains, however, through my sources in the Angelic Order, that Akiane, who lives on this world, is a painter who was painting Jesus at age 8 and looks absolutely incredible. Like, if you go down the path of exploring and learning about Akiane Kramarik, it's like, well, that's a living miracle. So much so, I probably suspect Akiane is what we would call the second coming of Christ, right? Is Akiane. And many, many, many people around the world see it that way because of the miracle of how she was 4 years old, 5 years old, and like one of the most beautiful painters you could ever imagine. And also the nature of what she says, how she, what she's able to convey. So I knew right away that there's something going on with this girl, and sure enough, as I begin contact with the Angelic Order, I come to find that she's the one in charge of it. Which means what exactly? Akiane is commonly considered the one in charge, as in charge of everything. They call her Queen Akiane up there. But Akiane explains how even she is unsure of lore from such an unfathomably ancient point. Excuse me. She explains that her memory structure cuts off about 7.5 trillion years ago, which is her social memory complex, as they say, when she manifested herself in human form among an unbelievably beautiful civilization known as the Pascalanians. I just ate something spicy, so it might be, it's not good for the old indigestion issues I have, but here I am anyway, putting hot sauce on all my ramen noodles. Okay. She manifested herself in human form among an unbelievably beautiful civilization known as the Pascalanians, which is reflected in much of her artwork. So along with the painting and melody portrayed in the prior video, this is a painting by Akiane reflecting the moment of creation. So I'm going to bring it up on the screen. I first saw this painting years ago and I could never get it out of my mind. If you look closely at this painting, you'll see all types of completely surrealistic imagery. So it appears to be the original manifestation of form itself. And let's go ahead and let's get rid of this and bring on this. So this is actually the painting that I'm referring to. Goes down a little bit. And And this painting is called Triumph, and it's by Akiane Kramarik. So when you analyze this painting, you'll see all kinds of wild stuff that's hidden deep inside of it. And if you want to take a close look, just Google it, paint Triumph by Akiane. And like the way it's explained to me is that this painting shows things that came into being through her memory. So Akiane explains that her actual memories is 7.5 trillion years of life as Akiane. But before that, she existed in this kind of form that is everywhere, basically. And from this form that's everywhere, Akiane was in existence basically dating back to that point, which is the point of creation, which was her as one of the primary driving forces of the soul manifestation of the cosmos, as Akiane, the divine essence form of basically her artistry. And so what you'll see is beings all throughout this painting that represent different forms that come into existence at that point in time, basically, which is still linear time. But how can there be linear time? Well, there is, but there isn't. Akiane, I'm told, always says something which is kind of her trademark. Let's see. My microphone has gotten very weak all of a sudden. You never know. There's weird stuff out there sometimes in regard to, I'm not kidding, forces that do not like, there you go, forces that do not like me putting this information out there. And that's why mysteriously my audio settings just like my microphone went down like 14 decibel points on its own, so the settings just changed. I had fixed it. Okay, well, here we are then. As I was saying, it sounds kooky, but no. There's been all kinds of weird spiritual attacks and weird stuff going on out there because there's an interplay. There's an interplay between forces of light and dark. As I was saying, so this is in essence, and I'll put up the other one as well. So we're looking at on the right, kind of like something that I'm explained comes out of Akiane's memories from the beginning of creation itself. And remember, there's new souls that are endlessly coming out of what's called the one infinite creator. But there's not many souls that actually came out of this. Ooh, people messaging me on Facebook. Let's turn the desktop audio off. Okay. There's not many souls that were there from the beginning. That's what I'm told. It's not really out there. This is a point in time that is so unimaginable that it cannot really be fathomed, but at the same time it can be because of the power of spiritual time travel and the ability to go back to that point. This almost looks like an animal, like a cat or something up here. It's like some of the beautiful forms that we see and understand actually have its roots at the very, very inception. And sometimes it just takes a moment to remind ourselves about how beautiful the human form is and what's really going on out there. And I guess maybe the final real point here is what I'm told Akiane in her higher self form as an archangel teaches people, which is to submit to God. Now, what does it mean to submit to God? What it means to submit to God means to, shall we say, if there's things you don't understand, if time scales make no sense, if you find yourself feeling existential about certain things in life, just understand that there's forces and these perspectives of existence that are beyond comprehension of anything you or I could ever possibly conceive. Like the way it all works, you don't have to know everything. You don't have to comprehend everything. You don't have to have knowledge of every single thing. You can actually just look at something and be like, well, this relates to the beginning, and this relates to a mode of, let's say, existence that is outside of my understanding, but it relates to divinity. And if I don't understand it, I don't have to feel anxiety or anxiousness. I don't have to feel any of it. I can just submit myself to it. Like, well, this is the work of God, and we can explore it. We don't have to be afraid of it. We can talk about it, and we can bring it into our hearts and recognize that within there is, let's say, our wonderful animal friends, a kitten, souls that are eternal. And it all relates to a point that has to exist, because I'm told there has to be a beginning point. There cannot not be a beginning point. That's a paradox. So there has to be a beginning point. And there was a beginning point of all that is, eventually leading in to a beginning point of the physical multiverse, which happened much, much, much later. And that the physical multiverse itself, which is the cosmos of stars and planets, became, well, the multiverse of endless trillions upon trillions of universes that exist within the span of what's called nature. And then within nature there is chaos, and within nature there is the world we see around us. And there are big bangs and universes that come into existence naturally, or universes that come into existence basically through the manifestation process. And that's basically something that, I'm just checking the audio again. That's basically something that all we can really do is just submit to it and be like, well, this is, these are elements that are maybe beyond our understanding. But somewhere in here are mysteries. Who is Metatron now? What I can tell you is I was in a kind of communication with Metatron before I made this video because of my mental syncing powers. Metatron told me the developer who made this video game was in communication with him as well, and was, there was information flowing through him. And then we have Akiane Kramarik, who is essentially the avatar of the Archangel Akiane, who is the ruler of all creation, as it's known. And that explains why this woman has the presence and the power on our earth right now, as maybe the world's greatest painter, certainly one of the most famous. Her artwork, of course. I mean, she's filthy rich and can do miraculous things that are living miracles. Well, now we have some idea of what's going on, and the audience has some idea of who I've been communicating to for so long, and who the Angelic Order is, and what is the kind of information that comes out through them. Now, I would recommend or suggest that you check out some more of Akiane's paintings, which you can at Akiane Gallery, which is, again, phenomenal, because every single painting has a story. And I especially like the painting of a Japanese man. And I don't know if it's even possible for me to bring it up right now. I'll do another video, but there's just so much there, which is reflecting in eons and eons and unbelievable stories that are, that will make you cry your eyes out by looking at Akiane's paintings. I've been a fan of Akiane for probably, 15, 16 years. And once I began the work that I was doing, I knew I had to get to the bottom of it. And lo and behold, I find out that she's kind of popular in the cosmos. She's a little bit popular. People kind of know who she is out there, not just on our planet. As well as the Japanese, who are a soul collective that dates back, I'm told, 16 septillion years. That's how ancient the Japanese are. And so with that said, everybody, that's it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it, and hope you can take this knowledge and just be like, well, shit. all right, let's just, however it all fits together, it just is what it is. And it's kind of, let's just say, a glimpse into eternity. This is Cyrus with the Great Cosmic Shift. I'll see you on the next video.